Well, I'm back after a little bit of a break. I am in my new digs, so I'm still kind of figuring out how everything's going to be working in this new location. As you can see, I'm oversaturated on this side, undersaturated on this, so I'm still kind of working things out. It might just be when I record. I'm using a lot of the natural sunlight for once, which is rare because I've been living in the basement for the past 10 years. So, hey, I'm finally moving literally up in the world. Anyway, we have come back to a full-length album review. This is an album that's been out for quite a while, and it's really taken me a while to get into it. So, yeah, let's dive in and figure out what we've got in store. Weltschmerz by Fish. So, for those of you that don't know Fish, Fish was the lead singer-songwriter for Marillion back in the 80s. He was the one to kind of help start the whole neo-prog movement back in the early 80s and left the band in the very late 80s, early 90s to kind of pursue his own solo project. He is Scottish. He is quite politically toned within his lyrics and music. Born Derek William Dick, my boy Derek decided to go by Fish, which I'm not overly that surprised. I mean, Derek Dick sounds more like a comic book person than an actual music singer-songwriter. But, I mean, he's put out 10 albums, not including this one. So this one is his swan song, his 11th studio album, and if rumors are to be believed, this is his last output. And honestly, he's going out very, very well. He's going out kind of at the peak. And this album is reminding me of an artist who has mastered his craft, who has perfected his art. And it's kind of a little bit of a retrospective of not only his career, but also the musical landscape from when he started to where he is now. I'm getting flavors of Roger Waters and Ian Anderson. Weltschmerz feels like it's a contemplative analysis of the world that we find ourselves into, the world that shaped where we are now. And it's no longer that young kid raging against the machine, and much more of a older generation being pissed off of how the world was come to shape, them always standing up and voicing their criticisms and the world not heeding it. So I feel like Weltschmerz is that kind of a final lament, a final release of emotion. And the thing that I actually like above, say, is this the world or is this the life we really want from Roger Waters, is that Weltschmerz doesn't shy away from some of the more pleasant aspects. Like, the world isn't black and white, right? There's always going to be shades of gray. And even in a world of misery, you're still going to have those shining, like those silver linings. And this is found within a number of different tracks on here. The main one is This Party's Over, which is kind of funny as it's the most lively of all the tracks. It's very similar to, say, like Garden Party or some of those more happier early Marillion stuff. And same with song C. C Song, the Trondheim's Waltz, the second track from the second disc. Again, it's much more of a celebration. It's looking to the past and realizing that not everything is full of crap. Even with all that said, there's still quite a bit of lamenting. And the big one is Rose of Damascus. I think that's how you... Damascus. I think it's Damascus. The last track off of the first disc. This one's reminding me of that classic Marillion emphasis that we had from Fish. I mean, I'm getting flavors of that misplaced childhood where there's almost a spoken word aspect near the end point of this track. I mean, it is the longest track at over 15 minutes, so it has that essence about it. It has that kind of more of a lamenting of why we're really here. And we still have quite a bit of those raging songs. The two biggest ones for me is Man with a Stick and Little Man What Now. Both of these kind of feel like mirrors of one another. Both are talking about individuals that are small in metaphorical stature, not necessarily physical stature, but metaphorical stature, but still wielding quite a bit of power. And I mean, within the current climate that we've had for the past decade or so, it's very prominent in that. I know that there's quite a bit of allusions to Fish's past and more of his personal life, but you can also bring those to the forefront within a number of different aspects of society, and not just within the political sphere. Like even any kind of relationships, whether it be big corporations or even like middle management, that can all be found within this. Honestly, my favorite parts of this album are more of the heartfelt, resonating and introspective tracks. Garden of Remembrance, the first track off of the second disc, is by far my favorite. It's very somber, it's very reflective. You can feel this man, you can feel Fish really at the end of his career, thinking back and realizing not everything is gone in vain. We did make some progress, and let's bring that about. And it's also dealing with, an image of an individual slowly losing their memories and dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia and that aspect of life, and kind of at the twilight years, what that means. And it does have quite a number of allusions that I really, really enjoy and enjoy thinking about. On the other side of that, we also have tracks like Walking on Eggshells, which is, within a relationship and trying to deal with another party that, one wrong move and you're going to set them off. And that's not necessarily even with a romantic partnership. That's any relationship that you have with somebody. Again, I'm thinking of either like an office setting or a work setting where you're dealing with a coworker or even somebody that's higher up in charge. And the moment that you act in a way that doesn't align with them, it sets them off. Now, the final two tracks off of this album, Waverly Steps and the title track of Weltschmerz. Weltschmerz, jeez. I like how Waverly Steps, being the second longest track off this album, does feel more like a celebration. We're at the end of the album, we're feeling kind of like taking stock of what has all come before. And I like how it's presented in such a positive outlook, especially coming off of Little Man What Now. And I like the music presentation. It does feel like Fish has mastered his craft and he knows exactly the sounds that are needed to usher forth this idea, the lyrics that kind of come around that. And I do enjoy that Weltschmerz, the final track, has a little bit more of a punch. It has a little bit more of that teeth that I was hoping for from Fish. Because Fish was always that big crow, that big rooster within the hen house that really struts his stuff and just belts it out. And I love how, even though within his twilight years, we still have that little bit of teeth that brings this album all together. So yeah, that's Weltschmerz. Weltschmerz, I think. Ugh. This album isn't necessarily perfect. I do think it's a little bit on the long side. I think there are certain things that probably could have been cut that wouldn't have lost anything. I do feel like having this as a double disc was a better idea than having it as a single disc. Because if I sit down and I listen to each disc in isolation, I actually get a lot more out of it than when I sit down and listen to it in tandem with one another. It is a lot to ask for a fan base, but Fish's fan base is one not to shy away from this. And even with its long runtime, I never feel like I'm bored. I never feel like I'm disengaged with this music. So in that respects, it actually has a little bit of a positive for being as long as it is. But it is still a little bit of a task to do, to sit down and listen to the whole thing. I mean, even though Man with a Stick, Little Man What Now, and Weltschmerz have a little bit of a teeth, I was hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping for a little bit more of a stay power, because outside of Garden of Remembrance, even after a runtime of an hour and 24 minutes, I'm not coming away humming or thinking about any of the music that came before. It's really hard to kind of hold on to. It's almost like a slippery fish, if I were to use that metaphor. So I was hoping for a little bit more of a stay power with some of these tracks. I was hoping for a little bit more emphasis on some things, but what we got is still masterclass in terms of the music that's surrounding it. I still recommend this if you are a Fish fan, if you're a Marillion fan, if you're a neo-progressive rock fan. I still highly recommend checking this out. But at the end of the day, this is still a download for me. It's one that I would have on my computer. It's one that I would have in my collection, but I wouldn't invest in a physical copy of this. Like, I wouldn't run out and get it, even though I feel like listening to this on vinyl with a perfect kind of 4-side structure to it would probably emphasize and enhance the music overall. I wouldn't be running out to get it, but I would still recommend checking it out. So that's about it for Weltschmerz, by Fish. What did you guys think? It's been out for quite a while. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, let me know by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.